Hey everybody, welcome back. Another day, another Callous Draft Duel Clash, and this one is the one that you guys have voted for the most. The most requested, most hyped up round one pairing according to you guys in my Discord server. It is Zugubu Royale, previous Emerald Open winner, and Marshy, Emerald Open top 4, I want to say. Two big names in the ADV draft world, and pretty unfortunate round one pairing, given that there's only a 1 in 31 chance for this pairing to occur. But really, I mean, there's so many good players in this. There's been a number of banger pairings in the opening round. This is certainly one of them, and like I said, you guys, as you have voted, are obviously excited about this one. So they're going to play their set today, but let's get the draft itself out of the way, and then sometime soon, when the games occur, can get that going as well. So it is player one on the left, as it has been the whole time. That's Zugu. And then on the right is Marshy as player two. Therefore, Zugubu, Zugu, Royale, whatever you want to call him, he has the first ban, and he's going to keep it pretty standard here. Metagross is nothing spicy or unusual. It hasn't always been banned. It has slipped through the cracks a number of times. It has been picked very early in the times when it's available, but it's been banned a good amount of the time. But I don't know, half the time pulling a number out of my behind. Sometimes it gets through bans, sometimes it doesn't. I don't love it or hate it. Obviously a powerful Mon. Totally fine getting that out of the way. Coming back, Tyranitar, very common ban, has only slipped through once or twice. Not too much to say about that either, just a Mon that changes the way that everybody has to build, messes with if you want to do any kind of like reversal or pinch berry strategy, obviously screws that up. In this format, when inevitably you're going to get a number of sand immune Mons over the course of 21 picks, you could very easily build a sand focused team where almost everybody on your team is sand immune, but then on the other side, that might not be the case. And it's also just a really versatile threat. You can customize it for anything. DD is dangerous, mixed is dangerous, sub is dangerous, pursuit user, whatever the heck you wanted to do, one way or another. Obviously, that is a pretty threatening poke that, understandably, people don't want to be there, so that gets banned out as well. Next ban, not surprising, coming from a traditional draft player, an Emerald Open player, Raikou, considered one of the very best pokes. In fact, Metagross and Raikou are probably the 1 and 2 poke in whatever order in the traditional Emerald Open draft style, so not surprising to me that an Emerald Open player, Emerald Open champion in Zugubu Royale is going to take those two Pokemon out of play. And then finally, the response ban. I don't know that I love this one personally. I don't hate it either, but I think this poke has more safe and sturdy counters than these other three. So I'm not sure, but Marshy is going to remove Salamence. And that leaves a lot of gas on the table, as is always the case. Pick of the litter here between things like Snorlax, Celebi, Gengar, Zapdos, Aerodactyl, a number of other powerful Pokemon are available. And with the first option, of note, Skarmory makes it through the bans as well, which I think this is only the second draft in the entire tournament thus far. Granted, we're only in the first round, in which Skarm has been available, but that is not the way that he goes. He's going to lead us off with Zapdos, which, if you want to make an argue that anytime Skarm is available, it should be taken, I'll listen to that. But I don't hate the Zapdos pick at all. Very safe, very splashable. It's one of the just generic, this will always be good. You can do it on full stall. It could be a special wall on like a 4E team or something. Or it can be the point guard on basically any kind of offensive team. You just cannot go wrong with the Zapdos pick. And if you want to just be safe, if you want to keep your options open, that's one of the best ways to do it. But what's really weird to me is that Marshy also doesn't take Skarmory back. So, I mean, in a format where Skarm has been like permabanned, it's shocking that not only does it not get banned, but both players pass up on it given the opportunity. I do understand this response, however. Celebi and Snorlax are both special walls that are good into the Zapdos that was just taken, and they're just good mons in general, and Celebi is a pretty good counter to the Snorlax, so Marshy, I think, does this for multiple reasons. All the ones I just discussed. Good into the Lax, protect your own Snorlax immediately by taking the Celebi out of the play, and then they're just good mons. They're just two of the top 5-10-ish Mons available. So these picks are fine. They make total sense to me. I'm just baffled that Skarm hasn't been taken. And mind-blowingly, that continues here as well. Zugu opting for fast and threatening Mon seems to just be his preferred play style. Gengar Starmie here, again, just leaving Skarm to float in the breeze. Surely Marshy now is going to take Skarmory, right? I mean, it's crazy. This feels like the latest that Skarm is ever going to get taken in this entire tournament, possibly. There's many more drafts to come, but that very well could be the case. I can't believe that it's still floating out there. These are fine picks, but man, somebody is going to get a really, really late Skarm by the standards of this tournament. And that somebody does turn out to be Marshy. I can't imagine not taking it here. I would pull my hair out, I think. He's going to go Skarm Arrow, which is a very logical 1 and 2 here. Now, granted, I mean, I would never pass it back, but like right now, very early on in the draft, is Skarm amazing against the things that Zugubu has taken? Not really. Every single one of these can have electric attacks. Stab in one case. They also all can have status moves that Skarm doesn't like. There's 2 T-Wave users here. There's a Will-O-Wisp user here. There's even a potential Hypno here. If they go full offensive sets, they can all easily 1 or 2 hit KO the Skarmory. Starmie obviously is a rapid spinner, and one of the big perks of Skarm obviously is spikes. So like, maybe Skarm actually isn't incredible into what Zugubu has taken, but like I said, I cannot imagine, regardless of that, I absolutely cannot imagine passing it back here. That just seems crazy to me. So I agree with Marshy. Got to take it. And I think the Arrow pick makes a ton of sense as well. Arrow is good against all 3 of these Mons. So far, everything that Marshy has done makes sense. I just can't believe the Skarm went that late. But that is the way the draft played out. So, this pick is the first one that for me strikes me as unusual. The Blissey I'm down for. Makes total sense. Not only is it good, not only is your opponent hogging the special walls, but it also is good against the stuff that you already have, like the Zapdos, the Gengar, the Starmie. So as a protection pick, taking the Blissey, no problem. I like that pick. The Cloyster, however, I think is a little bit funky. Most people, and obviously not Zugubu, who is, I think, the only Emerald Open champion in this, so maybe everybody else should shut up and take notes. Who knows? But basically everybody but him in this has been valuing Fori as higher and better than Cloyster, and that was available here, but he sees it a different way. Of the Spiker Spinners, he prefers Cloyster, it seems. I'm not sure if any amount of that is because he thinks it's better against Lax. I'm not clear. I mean, none of them are particularly great there, but like at least you can absorb a number of hits, not worry about like a cheesy flamethrower or something. And then, I mean, they could both boom. They both don't really damage it. I don't know. I don't see a lot of reason. I mean, hell, Fori's clearly better against Celebi, right? And almost certainly better against Skarm as well. I'm not clear why he opted for the Cloyster here. I mean, I think the reason, and maybe the Blissey is counterintuitive to this, but by and large, Zugubu seems in a very, very offensive mindset. That seems very much to be his preference, the way that he likes to play. So Zapdos, Gengar, Starmie, pretty damn offensive, and Cloyster undeniably is more of an offensive dude than Fori is, and maybe that's just the way he wants to play. Maybe he just wants really fast, aggressive teams, and this fits it better. But I question if he could have or should have just taken Fori there instead, which most people in this format, like I said, seem to think is better, but he sees it differently, so we'll see if the Cloyster ends up being good for him. Marshy here. I like this pick. He's going to go double bulky water here. Makes a ton of sense to me. Just take both of them at the same time and just one fell swoop. Get both of them unavailable to your opponent. Rock solid start for Marshy. These are 6 very, very good Mons. You really can't go too far wrong with the start. And then also by taking the Arrow particularly, you are protecting your by taking the Swampert, you are protecting your Aerodactyl a bit. The Milo, not that exciting into what Zugubu has already, especially with all the Thunderbolts. There's now 4 things over here that can learn T-Bolt. But Milo in general, just a good Mon, and he's taking away the good bulky water options for Zugubu. And Milo is just always going to have purpose, even if there are a few things on the other side that are good. And Milo is a pretty good Swampert counter as well. So for all those reasons, it makes a lot of sense to me. I like taking them both at once. And yeah, I mean, all of a sudden the options for Zugubu for bulky waters are a little bit drier. And then especially if Marshy were to ban out like Vaporeon or something, Zugubu might end up with a team or two without a bulky water. And he's just going to have to live with that. But for now, we'll see how he wants to close out this opening round of the draft. And he's going to go for, there we go, a man after my own heart. And you could tell this guy's an Emerald Open player because these are total Emerald Open picks. Dragonite Hariyama. Dragonite rated pretty highly. Still not highly enough, in my opinion, in Emerald Open. But nevertheless, this is higher than anyone else has taken D-Knight up to this point. Like I said, it just shows his Emerald Open background, the fact that he's taking it this early. A lot of people have taken it in round 2. I think it's even fallen to round 3 in a couple of drafts, but I love D-Knight. It's a poke that I value very highly in the traditional draft format, and I like it quite a bit in this format as well. So if you want to question taking a third Rock Resist into the Aerodactyl drafter, fine, I can live with that criticism. But I like D-Knight quite a bit as a whole, and he's also going to shore it up a little bit with a Rock Resist here in the Hariyama, which also happens to be good against the Snorlax, okay against Skarm, okay against Milo Swampert. Generally solid pick here. Hariyama, arguably the best fighter in the format, but mixed opinions on that as well. Some people really prefer Hera, some people really prefer Metacham. There's also the fact that Breloom has Spore, which is obviously a broken move. I could see arguments a number of different ways, but given his pick of the litter, first fighter off the table, Hariyama is the pick for Zugubu. And now we move over to bans. So it's going to be Marshy who's banning first, and then he's going to, from there, after this round of bans, get the double pick. So he's got to be very careful with what he bans, as does Zugubu, because whatever's left, Marshy can immediately take 2 of those mons. So the first thing that he wants to take out of play is interesting, is the Dugtrio. I'm a little bit surprised by this. I feel like Skarm Doug is a good defensive combo, and I also think Doug is reasonable against Blissey on the other side. But I guess Dugtrio as a whole, even though it's really not that great against Marshy's team, so I'm not clear what he was worried about, but I guess it's not that great against Zugubu's team either. Maybe he's really, really not into the possibility of Zugubu having the Zap Doug combo, which I guess I'm okay with, but I don't know. I think Doug as a whole, overrated in this format. I think people throughout basically all of these opening round drafts have rated Dugtrio more highly than I do. I just don't. I think there's just a lot of matchups and a lot of mons that just isn't very good. Just looking at the example right in front of us, Dugtrio is good for Marshy's team. Kind of, sort of against Celebi, but you don't even really one-hit KO it a lot of the time, and it can one-hit KO you back. And then, like, kind of, sort of against Lax, if it's not cursed, if it's sleeping, whatever. Even then, pretty circumstantial. It really doesn't seem great against Marshy's team. And then on the other side, same deal. What is Dugtrio killing here? Maybe Starmie, which can live your Earthquakes if it's bulky enough. Maybe Blissey, depending on EV spread of both mons. Even then, far from guaranteed. And really not a heck of a lot else. The Dugtrio ban's a little bit puzzling to me. It just doesn't seem that great against either team. And like I said, overall, I think people overrate it in this format. I'm not that big into Doug, especially some of its prime targets, Metagross, Raikou, T-Tar, already gone. So I'm really not clear what you're trying to get with Dugtrio here. I think I disagree with that ban, but it's the ban he made, so here we are. The response is going to be Charlizard. Interesting. This one, maybe he was worried about his opponent picking it. Charizard does not seem amazing into Zugubu. Very vulnerable, again, to all the electric users. And then, I mean, he's also, all these mons can threaten it, really. I mean, Dragonite is yet another potential Thunderbolt user. Hariyama, Rock Slide user. All this stuff can hit it pretty good offensively. But I guess the counter argument is that Charizard can hit them offensively as well. As far as picking it, it seems better into Marshy than it seems into Zugubu, which is another reason it's kind of a puzzling ban. Charizard is certainly a threat against Skarmory, Snorlax, Celebi, kind of Swampert, Granted, it is bad against my Milotic, but like as with any counter, are they definitely going to have it in the one game that you bring the Zard? It's only a 1 in 3 chance. Doesn't feel like a reason to not pick it. Not sure about these bans. I don't know about either of these. Like I said, the Zard I think is better against Marshy than it is against Zugu, so it's weird that Zugu bans it. And we've already discussed the Dugtrio, so I don't know about either of these. A little questionable, but I'm sure these guys both have a plan, so we shall carry on. The next ban, Registeel. Sure, I think he has 2 special walls that he's comfortable with already in Celebi and Snorlax, and wants to deprive his opponent of as many as possible. His opponent has arguably 2 special walls as well in Blissey and potentially Zapdos, so fair enough. Taking out a Rock Resist is obviously a good thing as far as your Aerodactyl is concerned. It's also a good wall against your Snorlax, so this ban makes sense to me, taking out the Registeel. That, I think, has merit. I like that more than the other 2 bans that have occurred in this round. And then this is kind of a, I don't know if it's just like a this poke is threatening kind of thing. I think, again, this is just Zugu showing his Emerald Open background and taking one of the highest points mons still available as far as the Emerald Open sheet is concerned. But he's going to ban out Alakazam, which I guess, I mean, is Alakazam... It's not bad against Zugu. I mean, it's obviously a threat to Hariyama. It's a threat to Cloyster, threat to Gengar. I get it. I don't know if it's like... If you needed to take it here, plus like counters for it, Dusclops, Houndoom, Umbreon, whatever, are all still available if your opponent were to take Alakazam. So I don't know that was a necessary ban, but I can see, given what Zugu has, why he might potentially be nervous about that mon. So like, I'm okay with that ban, but I don't know that he needed to do that, all things considered. But that is what he did. So now it is back to Marshy. Like I said, he has a double pick here, and he's going to opt for Claydol and Jolteon, interestingly. Well, Claydol is simply a rapid spinner when he just doesn't have any. It's usually better against rock spam or electric spam, which not really the case for Zugu. It's an okay counter against Zapdos, but it could still have things, whatever, Toxic, HP Ice, whatever. Zapdos has plenty of play against Claydol, and even if he doesn't like the matchup, he could probably just baton pass out of it, so I don't exactly view Claydol as a Zapdos counter, per se, but it's got a little bit of play against it, and certainly the Jolteon does as well, though it needs to very much worry about getting hit with T-Wave. And then again, I think when you're the Aerodactyl drafter, it's basically never wrong to take Rock Resist out of play for your opponent. So that pick doesn't blow me away, but I'm okay with it. And then the Jolteon I actually like quite a bit. The Jolteon, big threat against Gengar, Starmie. Cloyster can have HP Ice for Dragonite. Any matchup it doesn't like, it can just baton pass away. The Jolteon I think makes a lot of sense. So cool with these picks for Marshy. They don't offend me. So the counter here, again, keeping it aggressive and keeping it very, these mons are good in Emerald Open, so they must be good here. He's going to go with Gyarados and Sceptile. I love the Gyarados pick. I think Gyarados in this format is very strong. I think if your opponent splashes random shitty HP Electrics to try to beat it, that's like universally a win for you because HP Electric just blows. And if you bring HP Electric against not the Gyara team, that can't possibly be good. And there's just so few counters for it, and it's easy enough to ban out its counters. Now, granted, there is a Skarmory on the other side, which is one of the things that Gyarados doesn't love, and likewise there's an Aerodactyl on the other side, which is one of the things that Gyarados doesn't love. So, like, maybe this is not the ideal setup for Gyarados, but, I mean, generally speaking, a lot of the time, teams on the other side are going to have, like, one counter, 2 at absolute most, but it's very common that teams are just going to have one actual answer to it, and if you keep it hidden in the back, and if anything were to happen to those answers, whether it's luck or crit or status or just overwhelm it with things that threaten it, whatever you want to do, all of a sudden Gyara can kind of go wild and just win the game. I think it is quite a good mon in this format. So here is the response from Marshy. Busting out the Regice here, as well as the Kangaskhan. Yeah, the Regice I think is a great pick. The team so far for Zugu, and there's still room for change, but So far, it seems quite a bit more on the special leaning side rather than the physical. And the Regice is good against the Zapdos, the Gengar, the Starmie. It threatens the Cloyster. It's good against the Dragonite. It's actually good against the Gyarados as well, despite Gyarados obviously being a physical threat more than a special threat. The obvious thing for Regice, just it learns Thunderbolt, and it has a pretty good special attack stat. So that is a threat to the Gyarados and the Sceptile as well. So Regice, I think, is a banger pick from Zugu, and that very well may prompt him to take some fighters here. He might even double fighter in the next round. Fighters seem pretty reasonable against Marshy. He actually just took double fight weak with the Kangaskhan here as well, and then you already have the previous fighting weakness with the Snorlax. Fighters with Focus Punch, reasonable against Skarm, reasonable against Arrow because they all basically learned Rock Slide, reasonable against Milo. I would not be surprised to see Zugu take a number of fighters here, but let's not skip over the Kangaskhan. Not exactly clear. It might just be a generalist pick. It does learn Wish, so that is a second potential Wish passer if you want to count the Jolteon as such. Jolteon usually doesn't have Wish, but it can. It's just a general good Mon. It only sleeps for one turn when it rests thanks to early bird, so it's pretty durable and it's very much present in the fight. I don't think you can go too far wrong, but I don't know that there is a specific reason for the Kangaskhan. The pick doesn't blow me away, but it doesn't offend me either. I do wonder if by taking the Kangaskhan and like I said, taking that additional fight weakness, if he's just like really inviting Zugu, almost begging Zugu to pick up fighters here. I wouldn't be shocked at all if Zugu went like Medicham Heracross here, or something to that effect. So that I think might be something to be nervous about if you're Marshy. I think like going Medicham Heracross here is actually really threatening against the squad that Marshy has assembled, especially because the faster team clearly belongs to Zugu right now, but we'll see how Zugu responds. He does half of what I said. He does take Medicham, which makes all the sense for the reasons we just discussed, but he's really prioritizing both the bulky water that kind of slim pickings and also rapid spinners by taking Blastoise here. So now, in theory, he's got 3 spinners and does not need to worry about that going forward. The Starmie, maybe the Cloyster, and the Blastoise all with spin. There is just the one Spiker on the other side, but it is the best Spiker in Skarmory, so gonna want to obviously have spin as an answer in every game. Now, granted, there are all the ghosts other than Gengar still floating around, so perhaps a Dusclops or a Mischievous or what have you may make life more difficult than it needs to be as far as Zugu is concerned, but I don't hate the Blastoise pick, but I like the Medicham pick better. Like I said, I think given what's on the other side, given the double fighting weakness that was just taken, given the overall kind of slow team that Marshy has going on, I think fighters are a big threat. This fighter in particular that just learned Shadow Ball and doesn't have to use crappy HP Ghost, even better. Claydol doesn't love that, Selby doesn't love that, so on and so forth. So, ramping it up to 11, and I think that this is interesting against an opponent who just took his 3rd Rapid Spinner. I don't know that I personally agree with these picks. I think I would probably pivot to a different strategy, but Marshy, free to do whatever he wants to do. He's going to actually just go double Spiker here, so he views it as very important that all 3 of his teams have spikes, and now they do. He's got Skarm, he's got Glalie, and he's got what I would consider a pretty early Quillfish. I think Quillfish can very commonly and easily be gotten in these 3rd round options here, but there's also, I mean, it's also, there's other Spikers available, so I don't even know if like Quillfish is the best among the remaining ones. Remember, Fortress is still in play, which is a massive head scratcher. Surely Fortress is better than stupid Quillfish, right? Am I missing something? But if for whatever reason the players don't like or forgot about Fortress, you also have the option. You have Roselia, you have Omastar. Cacturne is allowed in this format as long as T-Tar is banned, which it is, so Cacturne would be an option. There's a couple other Spikers as well. Smeargle, I guess, if you want to count that as a Spiker, is also an option. But yeah, I really question these picks. Glalie I like as a whole. Quillfish with Fortress still available is mind-boggling to me. To me, that can't possibly be right. But even bigger picture, not only do I not agree with Quillfish over Fortress, but like I really wonder, is this the right approach? Is this the right strategy? against an opponent who already has all three rapid spinners ready to go, do you want to really try to beat him with spikes? Is that really the plan here? I mean, if you're going to do that anyway, if that's the plan, I don't get why you wouldn't go like Glalie plus Dusclops or Forey plus Dusclops here. Why wouldn't you, if you're planning on taking a spiker down the road, why wouldn't you take the rapid spinner insurance here? It becomes really easy here for Zugubu to just take or ban out Dusclops, which I would very much consider taking Dusclops here if I'm Zugubu to protect his double fighter and to make it so it's very hard for Marshy to prevent the spikes that he's very clearly going to be relying on. So I would go that way, but Zugubu sees it differently. So he's going to go Smeargle, which, like I said, potentially a spiker in and of itself, and then a really, really late Fortress, overly late in my opinion. The fact that Quillfish was taking over it is crazy to me. I don't even really like Kangaskhan over it. Fortress in a lot of these drafts has been taken in round 1. Certainly, if it makes it to round 2, it is a big priority. So, getting Forey at the end of round 2, I think, is a steal as far as this draft is concerned. And yeah, I mean, that is a potential 4th rapid spinner. And now the advantage, air quotes, that Marshy had of having all 3 teams with spikes, well, now Zugubu has that too. Cloyster, Forey, Smeargle, all spikers. So we've got a spike fest here, but I mean, I look at the draft overall, and I think I liked Marshy's position better after the first set of picks for both players, first round of picks rather. But certainly, I think things have swung the other way. I can't see a reason that Marshy has an advantage here. I think that Zugubu's team is faster and more offensive. I think he has some difficult to deal with threats such as the fighters. I think that the quote advantage that Marshy was trying to have by having 3 spikers, 1 on each team, doesn't matter when he doesn't have the ghost to protect it and there's 3, maybe 4 spinners on the other side. And yeah, I mean, hell, as far as ghost blocking rapid spin, it's Zugubu who has that. He's got 3 spikers, but he's got a Gengar to actually protect the spikes. So I think I feel pretty strongly that right now Zugubu is winning this draft. There's a whole round of picks to go, and things can change. But yeah, I mean, despite such a strong start, despite the really late Skarmory, things have taken a turn, I think, and I like Zugubu's position better. But let's let Marshy close out the round here. He's going to obviously spinners really at the top of both of these guys' mind. They really are both committed to playing a spikes game here. So he takes Hitmontop. Interesting. As an attacker, it doesn't seem great here at all. Into Starmie, into Gengar, into Zapdos, into Gyarados, into Medicham, into Dragonite. Doesn't strike me as a good attacker at all. So this is purely a take a rapid spinner pick. Is it the best spinner available? I don't know. But I guess he is viewing the quality spinners after the Blastoise and the Fortress got nabbed as going down the tube fast and options are limited. So I guess out of what's available, this is the one that he likes the best. But the Hitmontop does not excite me into Zugubu's draft. And it's also interesting to me that given his pick of the litter of the ghosts, minus Gengar, of course, he's going to opt for Sableye. I think Dusclops is better than Sableye in this in the good majority of situations. If you want to make an argument on Sableye versus Misdreavus, I'll listen. I'm not convinced that Sableye is actually better than Misdreavus, but situationally, sure, it can be. I'll listen to that. But I don't know about Sableye over Dusclops, and I also don't know that for protecting Spike's purposes, that this is really the answer. It can, maybe stop spin from some of the weaker stuff, like Forey or whatever, but I don't know if it really stops spin from, Starmie or Blastoise, especially if Spikes are already down. I don't know. I get what he's doing. I don't know that I agree with the fundamental approach, the fundamental strategy for Marshy. I don't know that he, even with all he's done and all the effort that he's put into it in round 2 here, I don't know that he's actually winning the Spikes game here. They both absolutely committed to the Spike War, but having both a Spiker Spinner built into one for at least 2, if not 3 Mons potentially for Zugu, as opposed to 0 for Marshy, that roll compression is really valuable, and then Like I said, I think that Zugu has the better spikers, and I think he's probably better at protecting his spikes. I don't know. I can't convince myself with what's being shown right now that Marshy has the advantage, but let's let it play out. So it is the last round of bans, and these bans go to Zugubu, given that the last picks went the way of Marshy. So the first thing that he is going to take out is Espeon. I assume this is under the same thought process as the Alakazam. He just sees a fast psychic Pokemon that threatens things like Gengar, like Cloyster, like Dragonite, faster than a lot of the things on his team, might be difficult to deal with. He might feel that CM plus Baton Pass is not something that he wants to deal with and just wants to take that kind of thing out of play. But for whatever reason, he's been nervous the whole time about Psychics, hence the Alakazam ban, and he's going to follow that up with the Espeon ban. It makes sense to me. On the flip side of that, the response to that ban is going to be Steelix, which has been a common ban when you have either Zapdos or Aerodactyl. In this case, they are split apart on separate teams. Is there an argument that he could have taken Steelix to play it against the Zapdos? Sure. But I don't think the Steelix is incredible against the team from Zugubu as a whole. Got a lot of water spam, got a lot of special attackers, a lot of things that can learn EQ. He's got the double fighter. Both the spikers could set up pretty freely against Steelix. I don't know that picking it would have been all that exciting, so I'm fine with banning it out if you don't think you're going to pick it. And like I said, I don't know that he should have picked it. It doesn't make a lot of sense to do so, in my opinion. Interesting ban here. Final ban for Zugubu is going to take Lantern out of the pool. Gonna have to look that one over real quick. Why doesn't he want Lantern around? I guess because there's a lot of waters. There's like it's good against Zapdos, Starmie, Cloyster, Blastoise, Gyarados, Ish. I could see that. Bulky Generalist. I mean, like against the fighters, it can live a hit and it can T-Wave back. Yeah, I don't hate that. Lantern might be a nice little niche pick for Marshy. Not clear if Lantern was a mon that was at all on his radar, on his mind, or not, but I could see why Lantern would be good against Zugu's team. I don't hate that decision. I mean, there's still some objectively more powerful mons in play, but as far as just like picking something that you think is probably good against your team, yeah, I could see why he doesn't want to play against Lantern. So sure, I'm okay with that. And then here's a very, very late Heracross ban. Surprising to me that that gentleman is still in the pool, but I guess now he's not. But yeah, Heracross that late, pretty crazy. Heracross has been picked in the first round in some of these drafts. Certainly doesn't really get through the second round, but I feel like I say that about some Mon in every draft because inevitably there's too many good Mons. There's just not enough picks, not enough bans, whatever. Something is always going to fall through. There's like various levels of egregious, but Heracross potentially in round 3, one pick away from being available in round 3. That's pretty damn late. That is pretty damn late. So here we go. We are getting into the third and final round of picks. So Zugubu is going to opt for a fighter, but he doesn't go for Breloom, which is a little bit surprising. I definitely prefer Breloom over Machamp for my money, but to each their own. And he's going to go Machamp plus Nidoking. Not a big Nido guy. I always find it to be an underperformer, but it is fast-ish as far as the format is concerned, and its move pool is very vast, so if you value the ability in between games, game 2, game 3, to go back, tweak it, customize it, it is certainly one of the better mons for that, and that is very much allowed in this format. When they play the games, they can play game 1, and then in between the games, they can mess with their teams. They can't take an hour or whatever, but they have a few minutes. They can tinker with their teams, change move sets, whatever, and certainly Nidoking is a poke that very much benefits from that tinkering because it is very customizable. So if you're in that mindset, you're obviously not bringing it in game 1 ever. I think it is a totally fine mon to bring in game 2 or game 3 and just pick the perfect set for your specific situation. Little bit of EQ resistance here coming on late from Marshy as he takes both Flygon and Misdreavus, 2 Levitators here. The Misdreavus picks make sense. As we've already discussed, he's been very largely committed the whole time to playing the Spikes game and winning the Spikes war. Not going to go back over that too much. Like I said, don't know that I agree with the fundamental strategy, but if he's going down this road, if he's committed, then this is what you need to do. Got to take a ghost. Still strange to me that Dusclops hasn't been taken. Maybe it still will be down the road. But he's going to grab Missy, so he's going to have 3 teams with spikes, and right now 2 of them are going to have ghosts to try to protect those spikes, and that's going to be a huge core part of the game plan for Marshy. Flygon pick, could take or leave, generally good mon, rock resist when there aren't that many left, that's fine. Does it look amazing against Zugu's team when half of it can learn Ice Beam? Maybe not, but Flygon is a good mon, even if I don't necessarily love it in the matchup. So the response from Zugu, not surprised by these picks. Entei and Dusclops, which, like I said, I think is a long overdue Dusclops. I would have grabbed that earlier, but that's pretty much all the ghosts. I mean, if someone wants to take Banette, then hap at it, I guess, but I really don't think that mon's going to get taken. If this is the final count, then there's going to be at least 3 spikers for each player, and then 2 ghosts for each player. So, going to be very difficult for either one of them to keep spikes off the table. Going to be hard to spin. The Spikes War seems relatively even to me, but I think both of the best ghosts, Gengar and Dusclops, are both on the same team, and I think both of the best Spiker Spinners, the only Spiker Spinners, unless you count Smeargle, Cloyster, and Fori, are also on that same team, so it is very hard for me between Zugu having the faster team, the more offensive team, the better ghosts, and the 2 Spiker Spinners. It is very difficult for me to find a reason that Marshy is going to have any kind of advantage in this apparently Spikes standoff, Spikes showdown. I just don't see it. I feel that Zugu pretty clearly has the edge in this draft from where it sits now, and I think it's probably too late for that to change in too much of a meaningful way, but we'll see how Marshy responds. Going over the Entei real quick, on the other side, Celebi, Skarmory, Glalie, Regice, decent threat, Calm Minder, Fire Pokes in general, pretty good in this. Nothing wrong with Entei. Don't know if it'll be a standout, but it seems totally fine into the team on the other side. There's a Milotic that walls it. There's a Snorlax that walls it, but generally speaking, pretty good. And if it needs to just have like Toxic or Roar or what have you, it can certainly do that too. So totally fine with the Entei pick. It's proactive. Like I said, as a whole, I just like Zugu's draft better, and it's probably too late for too much to change my mind. But yeah, Marshy, very committed to the plan. We're all in. We have a plan. We're sticking to it. Not going to deviate at this point. Houndoom, spinner, arguably the best spinner still available. Gonna try to play the Spikes game. Gonna try to win the Spikes War. Houndoom, good pick. This, I think, might be one of the things that he needed to try to get back in this and try to win the Spikes War. The fact that he could trap and potentially kill the Gengar or the Dusclops or both. I mean, not going to be both because they won't be on the same team in the same game. But if he happens to find himself against either of those Mons, it is not unreasonable that he can remove them. And that might be the key for him to actually win the Spikes War in one of these games and therefore win the game. Totally down with the Houndoom pick. Probably would have taken that earlier, but that pick is good. That pick makes sense. Maybe Marshy put himself in a little bit of a better position by taking that. Okay. Tauros Ampharos. Tauros has been a pretty popular round 3 pick so far in the tournament. It isn't anything special. It's fast. It hits hard. There's actually fewer normal resists in this generally than you think. And even if you do go to a normal resist, many of them are weak to, say, Earthquake, for example. If you go to like Registeel, Steelix, whatever, you can hit that pretty hard. It's just a generally good Mon. Makes for a good lead. You can also Baton Pass to it. Intimidate's a useful ability. It's just a good glue Mon. It's not the MVP of any team, but a fine glue Mon that has been used over and over again, and I think is going to continue to be picked throughout the tournament. Ampharos is interesting. I don't hate it when you're looking at like Scar Milo on the other side. There's also randomly Quillfish and such. I don't know that it stands out so much defensively. It gets used in traditional draft as a counter pick against like Raikou, for example. But some of you may not know, Ampharos does learn Heal Bell, So perhaps he's valuing that as well. That gives him a third Beller, proper Beller, Blissey, Dragonite, Ampharos, and then Smeargle, I guess, not good at it because it's not bulky at all, but that can learn Heal Bell as well. So Zugu has really covered all his bases. He's got 3 Spikers, 3 Spinners, 3 Heal Bell users, arguably 3 Special Walls. I mean, yeah, he's covered all the bases. Like I said, I think in this format, when you're trying to have 3 teams that are good and 3 teams that cover everything and 3 teams that check all the boxes, Zugu's done a pretty damn good job of that. And like I said, not trying to be a broken record. I just like his draft better. But why don't we finish and then we can discuss? Only a couple picks left, and it is going to be Regirock and Electabuzz. I believe that is our first Electabuzz appearance in this. Regirock I like. I don't know that it stands out to me against Zugu's team in particular, but it does make sense into a guy who recently took Entei and just took Tauros. It's obviously good against both of those. It's good against Gyarados. It's good against Zapdos. I don't hate Regirock. It's one of those pokes where I don't know that it's ever going to be the MVP. I don't know that it's ever going to be amazing, but it's just generally useful. It's good glue, and certainly the flying and the normal resist both matter depending on the matchup. Electabuzz, not sure. That's kind of an Emerald Open pick. At one point, that thing cost like 13 or something in Emerald Open, which I think is way too high. It has since been moved down. It's too fragile. It's too status vulnerable. And I don't think it quite hits hard enough to truly compete in a format with a lot of OU mons like this one. But yeah, I mean, late game, it can be a cleaner. If you're going to use Electabuzz, it probably belongs in a matchup like this, where very, very often multiple layers of spikes are gonna be down, they can just come in and try to clean stuff up. So we'll see if the Electabuzz gets any love. Alrighty, final picks for Zugubu. He's gonna go Arcanine and Crobat here. The fire type advantage we just discussed with the Entei, Arcanine largely the same. He also gets another Intimidate, so dominating the Intimidate war as well. Zugubu, if he wants, in addition to a Spiker, a Spinner, a Special Wall on each team, if he now wants an Intimidate user on each team, he can have that as well because he's got all of the Gyarados, the Tauros, and the Arcanine. So again, just really covering all the bases, checking all the boxes. A solid draft for Zugubu. Not a surprise that this gentleman won an Emerald Open. Crobat, I think, is a good thing to take away from his opponent. There are multiple fighters, after all, for Zugubu. 3 of them, in fact. Once again, distributing. Hariyama on a team, Medicham on a team, Machamp on a team. Yeah, Zugubu truly checked all the boxes. He's got one of everything he needs on each of the teams, and I don't know what Marshy is going to do to stop it, but he does have one more pick. Maybe he's got some spicy X-Factor stuff in the back. With his final pick, he is going to take Blaziken, which in a Sandless format, which we're going to be here because, as you know, T-Tar banned out very early on. It has the very scary reversal set. It's got various options for sub. It can just be full-on special attacker, full-on physical attacker, mixed attacker. Blaziken's a scary mon. I think this is a reasonable pick on the other side, since the only proper bulky water, unless you count Starmie, that Zugubu ended up with is the Blastoise. Interesting, both Vaporeon and Slowbro did not get picked in this. So I could see why Blaziken might be a threat, but at the same time, the team from Zugubu is so fast and so offensive that it might be very difficult to find opportunities to switch the Blaziken in or have it actually take any hits. Certainly, if you can spread para or get it in via baton pass or what have you, maybe the Blaziken can do some damage, but I don't know how reliable it's going to be, all things considered. But if he's looking for ways to turn this around at the end, if he's looking for cheesy ways, all-in ways that could potentially terrorize Zugubu, maybe he can just load up the reversal set or something like that and see what he can get done. So that's the end of the draft, and I really don't have too long of a section at the end of this video because I've pretty much said as we go how I feel, and my opinion just hasn't really changed. It looks to me like Zugubu had the stronger draft. He's got a Spiker, a Spinner, a Special Wall, a Fighter on every team. His teams look balanced. His team clearly looks faster and more tempo controlling than Marshy's. I'm not saying Marshy can't win. I'm not going to say that about any of these drafts. It's draft. Matchups happen. Luck happens. Things happen. Sometimes one guy just plays better or just builds better or whatever. There are no guarantees. Not trying to go that far, but yeah, like I said, just being consistent, sticking to what I said all along. I think Zugubu's draft is better. If I could be one of these guys, if I could be in the position of one or the other, I would pick Zugubu, and he's going to be my prediction to win. Would I be shocked if it went 2-1 or if it was competitive? Of course not. But to me, it looks like he ended up with the better team, or teams rather. You guys can tell me that I am full of crap and totally wrong. That's the whole point of the comment section. So get up in there and let me know what you think happened in this draft. Who do you like to win this set? And after all these drafts, we're going to have some actual games coming soon. So look forward to those. Please hit the thumbs up if you've been enjoying it so far. Lots more content for this tournament to come. And I will see you guys in the next video.